Language lets you transmit an enormous, complex internal state to another person with enough fidelity that their DMN can reconstruct something that is close to your experience. A wolf can communicate urgency, direction, hierarchy. A human can transmit a specific memory from 40 years ago, including the emotional texture of it, and have another person cry. Two wolves can synchronize. 2 million wolves have never built a shared cosmology and agreed to die for it. But the temporal range is one of the starkest contrasts. Most animals operate in the present and somewhat near future projection. Humans can run a DMN that ranges across decades of personal memory, centuries of cultural memory, and imagine futures that may never arrive. The self story a humans carry is enormous. It spans huge amounts of time in both directions. Recursion is yet another gap. Humans can have a story about their story. They can examine the narrative that they are running, decide that it's wrong, and they can rebuild it. That's a metacognitive loop. And watching yourself think, narrating the narration, is something that human DMN architecture supports at a depth that other animals show very limited evidence of. And then there's friction. Humans voluntarily synchronize their DMNs with events and people that everyone in the room knows are totally invented. You sit in a dark theater, your body genuinely grieves a character that has never existed. The DMN is fully engaged with the fiction because it runs on a story of logic. The story logic requires no literal truth to generate real physiological and emotional responses. Writing externalized the DMN in a way that really cracked history open. Suddenly, a self story could persist past the death of the body carrying it. You could synchronize with someone 1,000 years dead. The compression could be stored and retrieved. Human culture stopped being limited by the lifespan and the memory of living individuals and the capacity to hold simultaneous conflicting narratives. Oof. A human can believe two incompatible things, perform one story publicly and run another privately. They can code switch between cultural narratives depending on the context, and the flexibility of the human story is extreme. Metacognition, as I mentioned before, that is the brain observing its own operation and generating a story about what it finds. The recursive loop is doing enormous work in human life. When it's running well, it feels like clarity. You catch yourself in a pattern, you name it, you have options. The name itself can sometimes be the intervention. Language applied to internal states changes how the brain processes those states. Talking about something genuinely shifts it. You are running the experience through the DMN's narrative machinery and reorganizing how it's stored and how it's weighted. The depth of recursion also matters. First order depth is you noticing what you're thinking. Second order is having a story about why you think that way. Third order is examining the thinking framework, generating the story in the first place. Most people operate at the first level, and sustained work is at the second level and third level, genuinely demanding. Most cultural systems actively discourage it because it does kind of force people to examine the framework, generating the story, and that can become a little difficult to govern.